Get my 6. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Homesteading Off the Grid. Are you in the mood for some creepy stories? I got a couple for you here today. And been telling stories here every day again for the last week or so because I'm getting myself ready for October. We are about a week and a half away from those beautiful October nights. Going to be up here telling you a story every night in October. The stories from October Nights Part 2. 31 more tales for the Halloween season. Got a lot going on. Got 2 really creepy stories for you here today, submitted from viewers. A note on that. One of these stories, I noticed the date it was submitted. The email, it goes all the way back to August, I guess, sometime right around the time I made this email address available for the channel here. Erie sent it to me. She said, here, you take these. She sent me a few, and she said, I'm working on a couple others. And these are like 1,500 word long stories. And I'm like, where have these been? I see the date, and she goes, well, they were just too long to get to. So many were coming in, and these were taking more time. So we've got a bit of a lull where not as many people have been sending in as many stories lately. So we were able to get to a couple of the longer ones. The second of which today I'm going to read. Christine M. from somewhere in deep, dark Appalachistan, as she put it. One of my fellow Appalachian Americans. You need to write. You need to be a writer. Erie's concern was these longer stories would take too long to edit. This thing hardly required any editing. And your style, your storytelling style reminds me of Edith Wharton. Just a newly found, she's a classic writer, newly discovered by me. I read, I think, almost every novel she wrote this year. Bunch of her short stories, fabulous storyteller. She wrote Ethan Frome, which was a movie from '93. I've talked about that. But I want to give a shout out to somebody that submitted a very long story that didn't require much editing, very well written. Devin Sprague in Pittsburgh, I think is how you said it. Your story, along with the stories that are being read today, and many, many others that we just simply don't have time to get to here on the channel, are already part of True Hauntings Volume 2. Personal experiences with paranormal, supernatural, cryptids, UFOs, and aliens. So yeah, Volume 2 is already well underway. And many of you have been submitting to the channel Bigfoot Sasquatch stories. So we have decided to revive the too long held on pause Bigfoot Sasquatch file series with number 14, volume number 14. That's underway. So again, if you have a story, be it related to anything paranormal, supernatural, Bigfoot, Sasquatch, anything out of the ordinary, unexplainable, and you'd like it to be considered to be read on the channel or to be considered in part of these series, in print form, in book form, go ahead and email it to us at crazylake@mail.com. crazylake@mail.com. Now, this first one is creepy AF. I mean, all of them are. This one's kind of short and sweet and to the point, so I'm going to read it and get it out of the way first. No less, good than the long one. Just if you want to tell you. Here we go. Our writer, who wishes to remain anonymous, writes, hello, Kevin. I do hope this email finds you well. I told you that I would send more stories, and it's just been a time trying to decide which would be the easiest to explain without verbalizing it, but here goes. I'm a single mom, working the most insane hours, raising 3 beautiful children, all extremely intelligent, but my youngest, she was and is very gifted. This story is very special to me, eerie yet special. I was in an unhealthy relationship at the time of this story, and the man I was with never watched the children, which meant I never got sleep. So it was around 1 in the afternoon. It was nap time for me and my youngest. She was 2.5 at this time, and just a delightful child. We were laying in the bed. I, as usual, was upset with life in general. So I was crying a bit, laying with my back to her as she lay there giggling, being a silly girl. As she gets louder, I say, baby girl, please get still. Let's go to sleep. Mommy needs her beauty sleep. She's giggling so hard, and then she just stops and says to me, Mommy, I replied, "What, baby?" She responds with the last thing on earth I ever thought I'd hear. "Meemaw says it's okay." Mommy, Meemaw says 4-9. I jump up and look at my child. I said, "What did you say?" She says in the sweetest voice, "Meemaw says 4-9. I said, "Where is Meemaw?" And she points to the ceiling and says, "She tickles." At this point, I'm in tears and calling my mother on the phone because Meemaw was my grandmother who passed away in 1988 from leukemia. I was 13 years old at the time. My grandmother's birthday was April the 9th, 4-9. Doesn't that give you chills? It was surreal. What I felt in that moment when my grandmother died, she took a chunk of me with her that I've never been able to replace. When people think I'm crazy for the stories I tell, I simply ask them to explain how my child knew in the year 2007 about a woman she'd never known or heard of at that point in her life who died in 1988. So that's another one of my stories. I hope you enjoyed it. It's a special one to me. Feel free to share. Anonymous in Tennessee. I read this morning at about 5:30 a.m. because I get up early. I'm up by 5. And I don't waste time. Once I pry my eyes open with that first cup of coffee, I just get to work. I get more work done. I pride myself in the winter months of getting more work done by the time the sun comes up than most people will get done all day, which often includes writing and or editing 2,000 to 3,000 words. I read that this morning, and I mean, it was just instant chills first thing in the morning. Thank you for this story. If you've got anything creepy that's happened to you out there, viewers, send them in, crazylake@mail.com. I love these kinds of stories, and I know we're still about a week and a half away from October. But man, it's like always a good time for creepy stories. This one is super creepy, and I mentioned Edith Wharton. Any of you readers out there know her, you're going to recognize a similar style. I'm not going to give it away. I don't want to give a spoiler. Okay, so Erie and I decided to call this one Buyer Beware. Hi, Mr. Lake. I've been watching your channel for almost a year now. I came for the gardening tips, but I've stayed for the entertainment. I love to read the comments section because it makes me feel not quite so alone. Not that I'm lonely, because I'm not. I have a family and friends, but where I sometimes feel alone is in regard to some of the strange experiences I've had. I'm so happy to see other people sharing their experiences in your comment section because it lets me know that I'm not crazy, nor are my parents, who have both been dead for many years now. You see, like yourself, I grew up in a small town in Appalachia. I love that word, by the way, and I'm so grateful that you've invented it. I laugh when I see people in the comment section asking where it is, especially when they're from there. Obviously, that one goes over their heads, but it's not gone over mine. And just as you have to appreciate our unique culture, you have to appreciate someone who so eloquently renames the entire region fittingly. I am one of the few who totally gets you. Yeah, I think it might be a cultural thing. I mean, you know, senses of humor, all this kind of stuff, that's cultural. Anyway, like you, I digress. Maybe it's an Appalachian American thing, like I was saying. So, when I was a kid, one of my parents' friends, actually 2 of them, a married couple, opened up a flea market type business in our small Appalachian town. I can't call it an antique shop. As you know, most of those places are either farther south or farther north. Most of what we have to resell in Appalachia is just junk, and we don't try to sugarcoat it by slapping a sign up that reads antique shop, which would mean little more than a license to overcharge for junk anyway. Nope, flea market works just fine around these here parts. My parents, like most people in town, wanted to support this couple, so they took us, I had 3 siblings, to the open house. I was about 10 years old at the time, and I've never been one to be into impulsive buying or consumerism at all, but I can clearly remember that even as a kid at 10 years old, a time in life during which it's almost natural to want to buy something at a store, especially when you've been told by your parents, who usually won't let you get anything, that you can actually get something, that I did not see a single thing in that store that I wanted. Sure, they had lots of stuff, but basically that's all it was, stuff. My mother ended up buying a pair of couch pillows that had deer on them just because it was about the only thing she could find that she could imagine a use for. She really wanted to help her friends. The pillows had one deer each on them. One pillow had a buck and the other one had a doe. I distinctly remember this because we all made some sort of comment about how we had to buy both pillows because we didn't want to break up a marriage or something cheesy like that. Anyway, we took the pillows home and we put them on our couch. The deer were stitched into the pillows in such a way that if you lay one on the left end of the couch and the other on the right end of the couch, the deer would be facing each other. That's exactly how we set them up. It wasn't long after that we went to bed because it was a school night. The next morning, after me and my sibs had gotten ready for school, and just before we went out to catch the bus, I looked at the couch to view our new pillows, and I saw that the deer were facing away from each other. "That's odd," my mother said when I pointed this out to her. "Your father must have moved them this morning before he went to work." She then switched the pillows so that they would be facing each other again. I made a mental note because my gut was giving me an odd feeling. I noted that the buck was on the left and the doe was on the right. To say I thought about the pillows that day in school would be a lie, because I don't think I did. Mind you, this is going back 50 years now. But I know that when I was walking from the bus stop to our house, I was thinking about them because I was having that same gut feeling again. As soon as I walked in the door, I looked at the pillows, and I'd be gosh darned if they hadn't reversed themselves again. The doe was now on the right, and the buck was on the left. I pointed this out to my mother, and she said that she'd taken a nap on the couch that day while we'd been in school, and that she'd accidentally knocked the pillows onto the floor, and she must have simply put them back in the opposite places. Okay, I thought, acceptable, but I continued to keep my eyes on these pillows. As fate would have it, only a few days after my family came into possession of these pillows, by way of our Mercy purchase, I got chicken pox. Yes, I'm aging myself, as obviously there's a vaccine for this these days, and it's odd, I don't remember anyone calling it the mark of the beast when it came out, and I was stuck at home for 1 week. My mom was a stay-at-home mom, so I wasn't alone, but what I'll say is that for the week I was home, I made those pillows my project. I would sit and stare at them, daring them to move in my mind. I never saw them move. However, every time I drift off to sleep, when I would wake up, they would be rearranged. You hear that? Those footsteps, there's a deer like 10 feet in front of me. I'm not going to move the camera because I've got it set up in a very special way on a tripod. It'll fall, but I guess she's coming to hear the story. She might circle around behind me. But why not? She's cute. I'll give you a look. You see her? Hi, dear. Where's everybody else? Where's everybody else? She's usually running around with another. Oh, here they come. Look down there over the hill. See them? There went one that way. Where'd the other one go? I'm surrounded by deer. I'm sure I got them in the camera. I hope so. But I'm surrounded. It makes me wonder, what in the heck are they running from? When deer run to you, they're obviously running away from something much creepier than you, and I'm pretty creepy. When we are at the top of the food chain, you know. You better keep getting my 6. You see any large dark objects moving around back here in this video today? I haven't been looking because I've been reading the story. Man. That veil is growing thin. Okay, see if I can get the tripod set back up properly. Do you hear that tree knock? Yeah, I think Bigfoot's out here hunting these deer. I think that's what's going on. Hey, and I see that large dark object, and I don't think that was there before I moved the camera, so keep your eyes on it. Looks like we might have a Bigfoot Sasquatch hunting party out here. Did you hear them? They knocked up here. One deer went that way, one went that way, one went in through my meadow towards my house. I think the Bigfoot Sasquatch are trying to encircle the deer. That's what's going on. Well, I guess they've got me encircled, so keep watching as I read this story. All right. Okay, so she's home with the chicken pox. I remember I got that when I was a kid. They didn't have that Mark of the Beast vaccine yet either. Yeah, so every time she'd fall asleep, take a nap, pillows would be rearranged. You were driving yourself crazy with those pillows, my mom would tell me when I'd mention this to her. So finally, I stopped mentioning it to her. But I continued watching. Things took a huge turn in my favor, at least as far as my mother believing me went, on the Friday of that week I was home with the chicken pox. The strangest of strange events thus far would lead to us finally getting to the end of our mystery with these pillows. My mother had fed me lunch, and then she had gone upstairs to take a nap in her bedroom. General theme for today's stories. Try as I might to stay awake, staring at the pillows with what seemed like see-through wall strength, wanting to see them move when they did, I finally fell asleep myself. When I woke up, my mother was standing between me and the couch. I'd fallen asleep on the love seat. She was staring at the pillows. I could see one, the doe, but not the other, because my mother was blocking it from view. Before I could see it, she picked it up and ran into the kitchen with it. When she came back into the living room, she was carrying the pillow in a black trash bag, and she quickly picked up the other pillow and put it in the black trash bag as well. "Come on," she said, urging me to get up off the love seat. "We're getting rid of these pillows." "What?" I said. "Come on, Christine," she said. "You can stay in the car while I take these back." Okay, so my mother was not trying to actually get a refund of her $1 or $2 she'd paid for the pillows. She had decided to take them back to the junk shop where we'd bought them, and she was going to simply give them back for free so that her friends could possibly sell them to someone else and make money off of them again. She explained this to me in the car as we went to the store. She told me that she was tired of me being obsessed for no reason, as she put it, with these pillows. Again, I was about 10 years old at the time, and I bought every word she told me, hook, line, and sinker. When we got to the junk shop, there was literally a line at the door. However, this line was not made up of shoppers. It was made up of returners, for the lack of a word that doesn't exist. Well, Christine, you just invented one, like Appalachian and humble salt. That's what we Appalachian Americans do. If there's no word fitting for our situation, we, by God, make one up. It seemed as if almost everyone who'd bought something at this shop was returning it. My mother was away from me for about 15 minutes. When she finally came back, she got in the car, shut the door, stared straight ahead through the windshield for a considerable period of time before speaking. And when she did speak, she looked me directly in the eyes and said, "We are never going into that store again." Later that night, while I was struggling to get to sleep, as all the naps I'd taken that week due to illness had totally upset my sleep schedule, I overheard Mom telling Dad about what she'd found out at the store and the true reason she finally decided to take those pillows back. As it turns out, when my mother woke up from her nap that day and she went downstairs, she saw that I was sleeping. She turned to look at my fixation, the pillows, and she saw that the buck was gone. Both pillows now had a doe on them, and this is when my mother realized I'd been right the whole time. Oh, this is creepy. Something was seriously wrong with those pillows, and as she told my father, she thought they were either haunted or possessed or both. But it gets worse. When she took them back to give them back to the shop owners, all of the other people that were there were doing the same with their items for the exact same reason. Every item they purchased seemed to be either haunted or possessed. My mother said someone was returning a doll that was supposed to wet its diaper when you poured water into its mouth, and the person who'd bought it said it actually urinated real urine, whether you put water in its mouth or not. There was an artificial bird in a cage that you would wind up and it would sing, that kept crapping real bird poop all over its cage. Supposedly, there was even an alarm clock that would announce what time of day or night the person who owned it was going to die. For example, at any given time of the day or night, it would just start blurting out, "You will die at 2:15 a.m. You will die at 2:15 a.m. My father believed every word my mother told him, just as I believed every word I overheard, and my parents agreed that they would never step foot in that shop again, despite the fact that they'd been lifelong friends with the owners. It didn't matter, however, because the following week, the shop went out of business. I guess word had gotten around, and that word was not good. Oh, I guess I should have mentioned this in the beginning, but before the shop had been a flea market, it had been our small Appalachian American community's morgue and funeral parlor for more than a century. Mr. Lake, thank you for giving those of us who have odd stories such as this one, a place to air them without fear of ridicule and harassment. I'm going to share your YouTube channel with my friends and family because I know of several of them that could send you some really good stories. Give my best to your beautiful family, and I impatiently await your next video. And by the way, I give you permission to use this story however you see fit. Just please only use my first name and last initial. Christine M., somewhere in deep, dark Appalachistan. So, Christine M. in deep, dark Appalachistan and Anonymous in Tennessee, thank you so much for your stories today. I could stay and talk forever, as you know, because that's what I do. But I think we've got a potential Bigfoot Sasquatch gang hunt going on around me here, some sort of like a circle hunt. So I'm getting out of here. Come back tomorrow. See you then for more.